Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Jenny here, the Uncrafty Crafter. Welcome back to this week's WIP and Chat. So WIP and Chat, if you're new here, I always like to explain what that means. WIP stands for work in progress. And then we just chat about the normal stuff, okay? So, anyway, my current WIP is the Chuck Pinson Inspiration of Spring Meadows. Doing it for the check along, and working on a little bit of 3837, pretty purple color. I'm using my Enabler's Outpost pen. Such a pretty pen. And then I have my Bella Art de Nicole tray. And I believe that's it. All you need to know. I'm using Harbor Freight and Elizabeth Ward. So, I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. We have had a great week, so far anyway. It's only Tuesday, right? But I mean, like the past, several days have been really good. So Sunday was Jolie's birthday. She is officially 2 years old, and I can't stand it. Lots and lots of stuff, but I'm gonna save some of my stories for my live this week. I wanted to specifically leave this WIP and Chat open for me to discuss something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. Just, thought that it would wait for the right time, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, since it's Jolie's birthday, I decided, since it was Sunday, I decided that I would go ahead and share my baby after 40 story. So I know that there's a lot of you that have been wanting me to share this story, because I know a lot of people are like, what in the world is she thinking, having a baby after 40 years old? Like, who does that? I do that. I did that, and I have lived to tell the tale, folks. But honestly, some people think, that Jolie was an accident, but that's not true. We tried and tried and tried, and finally we were blessed. So I didn't write any sort of timeline to talk about this. I just figured I would fly by the seat of my pants and kind of explain before we had her and since we've had her and why so late in life. Oops. Don't you love when you do that? When you hit them a certain way and it makes them shoot out of your drill tray. Looked like some popped out, but I don't see any. But anyway, so make sure that you have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a glass of wine, whatever it is. Get your WIP out, your current WIP, and work along with me as I tell the tale of Jolie Mae Huvier. And we call her Jolie Mae Huvier just as a Huvier is have you ever watched The Grinch, the Jim Carrey version? If you have, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so yeah, sometimes I call her Jolie Mae Huvier. So, we had Eli, our oldest. We had him, he's 14. So we had him 14 years ago, right? And then after we had him, we got pregnant again a couple years later, and I miscarried. And that was such a traumatic experience for me that I was like scared to try again for a long time. Like, I just, was scared of going through it again in case it did happen again. I was scared, just, So, like, I wanted to hold off and wait. And then we waited. And then when we did start trying, a few years after that, we had zero luck. Like, trying to have another one, like, constant pregnancy test, negative pregnancy test, blah, 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 blah. And then it just kind of became like a, if we do, we don't, if we don't, if we do, we do, if we don't, we don't kind of thing, So, pause, be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to take a quick potty break and realized I didn't have anything to drink. So I had to get a little drinky drink. Okay, where was I? So I'm trying to think of dates. I don't remember exactly where I stopped. But in 2018, I was 40, right? And I'm just calculating in my head. Yeah, I was 40. And I told my husband, I'm like, and something that you have to keep in mind too is that my husband is 10 years older than me. So not only did I have a baby after 40, he's a brand new dad again. I mean, we had our son, but he's, he's 50. So there's that. But anyway, what were we thinking, right? But anyway, yeah, in 2018, I was like, okay, babe, if we're going to do this, we got to do this like now. And so I struggled really bad with trying. We tried, even before that, we had tried and tried and tried. And it kept failing. So then I kind of, once I I put an app on my phone. I can't even remember what the app was, but it's one of those like apps where you like record your dates when you start your period, when you ovulate, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, something's not adding up here, I ended up going and seeing a new doctor, which was, I'm looking for this hashtag symbol, but I don't see anymore. He's an integrative medicine doctor. And what that means is, there's a bunch right here. What that means is they use just traditional medicine along with natural medicine. So, I was seeing him for my thyroid issues already. And, he looked at, some of my other levels, hormone levels, and was like, okay, we're a little bit off here. I had been using, because I knew that my hormones were off already, just like intuitively, I knew that they were. So I had been using like natural things, like essential oils and a lot of different vitamins and herbs and stuff. And I had started using, you guys know I use the Young Living essential oils, and they had a product called Progessence Plus. and I started using that. Well, come to find out, before I had started using it, one reason why I wasn't able to get pregnant, or here's more likely what had happened, was I may have gotten pregnant, but couldn't stay pregnant, or pretty much got pregnant but couldn't stay pregnant. Like, there is something called, if you look it up, I don't really know exactly how it works, but there's something called a luteal phase during your cycle. And that is the time, that phase is the time from when you stop your period until you, let me see, I'm gonna have to go back and look that up. It's either the time that from the time you stop your period until the time that you ovulate, or it's the time that you ovulate until the time that you actually impregnate. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that phase for me was too short. That typically lasts X amount of days, and mine was shorter than that. So I had too short of a luteal phase, which wouldn't allow me to get pregnant and stay pregnant. So, in other words, I could have gotten pregnant several times through these years, but would start my period, and that would, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I know that probably doesn't sound like it makes any sense to you, but that's like how the doctor explained it to me. And so anyway, I started taking that natural progesterone from Young Living, and it's just a serum, you know, that you would like wipe on your wrist or on, you know, just your neck, the back of your neck, or wherever you would typically put like essential oils if you use them topically. But anyway, so I have been using that and using that and using that for several months, and I had noticed that that luteal phase was getting longer and longer and longer. Like each month that would go by, it would be a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer, which was opening up my time window from being able to get pregnant and then it actually have time to attach without being flushed out with a menstrual cycle, if that makes sense. So anyway, let me grab another color. In the meantime, not only was I using the Progestins Plus, but I had started eating really healthy. We were eating mostly just like meat and produce, like protein and produce. We didn't have a lot of sugar, except for just fruit. Don't get me wrong, I would have the occasional candy bar or cake or whatever, but not really much at all. And I would reserve like a cheat day, like for like Saturdays or something, and I would have like splurge and have pizza and donuts or something, you know. But the other 6 days of the week, I really stuck to my just like clean eating. And so lost some weight, of course, and was feeling really good. And then I'm thinking it was the 4th of July. It was absolutely the 4th of July. So in 2018, okay? So it was the 4th of July, and I'm according to my little app that I had on my phone, as I was charting my cycle out, on on the 4th of July was one of the good, like, primo boom boom days, if you know what I mean. So, you know, not only did we have fireworks outside, we had fireworks in the bedroom, be yada, yada, yada. So anyway, and I was doing that whole cray thing where I'm like, oh my God, I'm ovulating. It's time. We got to go blah, blah, blah right now. Do this now, you know. And my husband always jokes because he's like, yeah, she just wanted me to get pregnant and then she drops me like a hot potato. But anyway. So, but I mean, again, I fully expected that nothing was going to come of it because it hadn't yet, you know. And then about, well, I mean, a month later, roundabout, or whenever I should have been starting my period, roundabout, like a few days before that, I had been to an actual event with Young Living. Like, Young Living would have what they call rallies, and they would be held like at local, like all across the country and all the different states usually, and like each place would, you know, have like a rally. And so I was at that rally. It was just a little weekend thing, and because it was, you know, a special event, I ate more than I should have, like buffet kind of food, you know, stuff that I didn't typically eat, a lot of carbohydrates and stuff. And then whenever the next day when I got home, I was like, God, I mean, I just slept. And I knew that I slept hard, and like I slept a really long time and I slept really hard. But it was like, you know how whenever you go somewhere for 2 or 3 days, or you take a week-long vacation and then you get home and you're just exhausted and you like conk out and boom, you like are dead to the world for hours and hours. That's how it was. And when I got up, I just felt like I had a hangover. I just felt so bad. And I remember talking to my girlfriends that was, you know, at the retreat or the rally. I was like, I feel awful. I'm like, I feel like I'm in a coma, and I don't know. I'm assuming it's because I ate all that crap over the weekend, you know? And they were like, yeah, probably. I mean, you don't typically eat that kind of stuff. And, you know, I had just a bunch of food, you know. And so then the day goes on, you know, I'm fine and everything's back to normal and everything, you know. Well, then I go and I'm fixing dinner one night. And I was fixing sauerkraut and smoked sausage. So good, by the way. Yum, yum, yum. If you like sauerkraut. But anyway, I just throw like a jar of sauerkraut, like drain it, all the water out of it, and then throw it in a frying pan with a little bit of hot oil, cut up smoked sausage and put in it, and just kind of, you know, swoosh it around a little bit till it gets nice and yummy. And I was making that for dinner one night, and I was standing there cooking, and I was all of a sudden just, oh my God, I got so sick at my stomach, like super nauseous. And I'm like, good Lord. And I remember telling Dale, he came into the kitchen. I'm like, you're going to have to take this skillet over. I'm going to have to go lay down. I'm sicker than a dog. And he's like, okay, whatever, you know. And I go and I lay down, or maybe I sit down. I think I sat down at my desk, and which was in, you know, another room. And he was finishing supper or cooking supper. And I was like, God, why did I get so nauseous all of a sudden? And I didn't like get sick, but I was on the verge. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God. And then I was like, no. And then I looked at my phone and I was scrolling through my calendar. And then I went to that little pregnancy app. And I'm like, no. And this was like at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. 8 or 9 maybe. And we tend to have late suppers around here. But anyway, I was thinking, oh my God, could I be pregnant? There's no way, right? I mean, no. And so I'm like, okay. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to wait till Dale goes to bed, because Dale goes to bed about 10, 11-ish. I'll wait till him and Eli are both in the bed, and then I'll like sneak out in the middle of the night and go to Walmart for a test, because I didn't have any. I had ran out, you know. And I did have, however, I did have ovulation test kits, because that's one thing. If you know anything about trying to get pregnant, then most of you know, you know. So I had bought like a bulk supply of ovulation test kits and pregnancy test kits, and was out of the pregnancy ones, but I had a few ovulation ones left. And basically you can just get them on Amazon. They're just a little pea stick. I mean, like, normally the pregnancy tests come in like the big plastic fancy sticks, but these are literally just the little strips that you like, you know, the little bitty plastic bendy strips. You can get them on Amazon for dirt cheap, like a bunch of pregnancy ones and a bunch of ovulation ones together in like a jumbo pack. FYI. And they work perfectly fine. But anyway, again, I was out of the pregnancy, but had ovulation ones. And I remember reading, I had been reading, you know, different things, and I had found out that if you are pregnant, that an ovulation test can say positive even after you've ovulated if you're pregnant, because of the hormone thing. Okay? And like I had read, a lot of moms, you know, didn't have pregnancy tests, but they take an ovulation test and it would say positive even after they had long ovulated and been done with ovulation for the month, and then get pregnancy tests and confirm. So I was like, I'll do that. I'll take one of these ovulation tests. And it said I was ovulating. And I'm like, really? Because I was ovulating a few days ago and I should already be done by now. So blah, blah, blah. You know, it's been a while. I shouldn't be ovulating now. Drinky drink. Hold on a second. My throat's getting froggy. So anyway, take another color. So anyway, yeah, Dale goes to bed. Eli goes to bed. And it's like midnight, something like that. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to get out and run to Walmart, because I was driving myself crazy. And I didn't want to let on to Dale that I was going to go do this and then get his hopes up if it was not true, you know. So anyway, I go to Walmart, and even though it's late at night, I'm figuring in my head, you know, I always run into somebody I know. It never fails. We live in a little bitty town. You go into Walmart, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find somebody that you know, even if it's super late at night. So whenever I got there, I'm like, okay, the last thing I want is to run into somebody and me with a pregnancy test in my cart, right? Or God forbid, holding one in my hand and just carrying it straight to the checkout. No, thank you. So I grabbed the cart when I got into the store. And I was making a beeline for the, like, that department where you get the pregnancy tests at the pharmacy area. And on the way there, I found a pair of leggings. It was like an end cap in the women's clothing section, but they were like right out, you know, as you walk past, like in the main alley or whatever. And I was like, oh, those are cute. And they were on sale for like $7 or $8 or something. I don't know. And I was like, I'll get them, throw them in my cart, the leggings, because they were real soft material. As a matter of fact, oh my God, I have them on right now. I have them on. Here, I'll let you see. It's these leggings right here. They got holes in them. See that little hole there? And there's another hole somewhere else right there. But yeah, these are my super comfy pregnancy leggings. Okay, put you back up here into the stuff. A squeaky chair. Try to get you situated. So yeah, anyway, I go and I grab these and I put them in the cart. And I'm like, okay, whenever I go get the pregnancy test, I'll put the pregnancy test under these leggings so they're hidden in case I run into somebody, right? Because for one, I'm 40 years old, right? And nobody's going to, well, I mean, people would assume that it's mine, but, you know, it's sort of a privacy thing, you know what I mean? So I throw the leggings in the cart, go to the pharmacy, get the pregnancy test, sit there for 25 minutes trying to decide which one to get. This one will tell you 2 seconds after you pee. This one will tell you 2 weeks after you pee. This one, all you have to do is look cross-eyed at it and it'll tell you if you're pregnant, you know. Anyway, I grabbed 3 or 4 different kinds. That's probably an exaggeration. I probably grabbed 2 or 3 different kinds, but anyway, throw them in the cart, threw the leggings over top of them to hide them, went straight to the self-checkout, checked out, left, went home. Oh, and before I left the house, because, you know, just in case husband decided to wake up and like see me gone and the van's gone, I left a note saying that we were out of something. I don't remember. And then I had to run to Walmart and get something for Eli, or I don't know. I made up some excuse. But he never did wake up to see the note. So anyway, that was good. But yeah, I went straight home. Went straight to the bathroom. Took the pregnancy test. Put those pregnancy leggings on. Most comfortable things ever. Still have them. Love them. Wear them often. But anyway. Sat there and waited the however long. And I don't know about you, and this is probably, I mean, I know a lot of this WIP and chat is like too much information. TMI, TMI, TMI. But, you know, you have the option to like pee directly on the stick or pee in a clean cup and then dip the stick. And I'm a pee in the clean cup kind of person. So I had like red Solo cups. I'll never look at red Solo cups the same. But I had red Solo cups and I had kept like a supply of them in the bathroom under the cabinet for this purpose, you know. And so I had peed in the cup, stuck the stick in, set it down on the cabinet, put my lovely, soft, delicious leggings on, and sat there and waited. And I turned the alarm on my phone, like not alarm, but like a stop clock for however many minutes I had to wait. And I like did the whole like turn my head away from it, not look at it, and then look at it, and then turn my head away from it, and not look at it, and then look at it again. And I saw this little faint line start showing up in the second box. You know, in the first box, it always has the, like, the symbol. And then in the second box, You either get the symbol or you don't. And it was showing up like lightly. And I knew that pretty much anytime it shows up, even if it's light, that means it's pregnant. The lighter it is, that just means you don't have as much of the pregnancy hormone in your bloodstream at the time or whatever. But after the actual time had, the alarm or the timer had went off, it was darker. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, it was so surreal. I'm standing in the middle of my bathroom thinking, did this really just happen? All because I got nauseous fixing sauerkraut and smoked sausage, right? Oh, by the way, we did have mashed potatoes and cornbread. Awesome. But, oh my God. So yeah, I'm standing there like shaking in my literal delicious leggings, thinking, I'm 40 years old. What the blankety blank am I doing? I mean, we had wanted this all this time. And then when it was like in my face, I was like, oh my God, what did we just do? But I was so excited and terrified and scared and elated and just all of the feelings, right? So what's the first thing you do when you get a positive pregnancy test? What's the first thing you do? Anybody? Anybody? You take a second one. And then you take a third one. So that's what I did. And all of them came up positive. So by this point, it's like 3 in the morning. Dale has to go in early the following morning, you know, so, or this morning. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stay up. I can't go to sleep anyways. There's too many like emotions going on. And, so I'm like, I'm just going to stay up till he gets up, which was like 2 hours later. He had to get up at like 5 and it was currently like 3. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to get on the internet. Lord knows if I'd have had diamond painting at that time, I would have been diamond painting hardcore, like chunk, 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 you know. But, so I, sat down and watched a little bit of TV, tried not to doze off. Again, I couldn't really. I mean, I might have dozed a little bit here and there just because it was early and Eli had school. No, he didn't. He was in, that was summer. Yeah, it would have been summer and he would have been starting. Okay, anyway. So I was like, okay, trying to think of really cool ways to like tell Dale that I was pregnant. And I had saved pictures in my like Pinterest, and like in my photo album, of different ways to, you know, tell your husband and announce it to the world and all these different fun little things, you know, because we've been planning this forever and ever and ever and ever. And I couldn't come up with anything that quickly because it was like 2 hours later and he was going to be awake, and it wasn't like I could wait all day because I had initially planned on like fixing something like spaghetti and having the plate say we're pregnant underneath the spaghetti, and then when he finishes his plate he sees what's written on the bottom. That's what I had planned on doing, but I knew that I was not going to be able to contain that for an entire day. I knew I couldn't do that. So I'm like, okay, the first place he goes when he gets up in the morning is to the coffee pot. He goes to the coffee pot, fixes a pot of coffee, then goes to the bathroom, you know, while the coffee's brewing. And then he gets on his phone and dilly-dallies, you know. So, while he's waking up. And, I had opened the kitchen cabinet up where our coffee is, like the big, like, red Folgers canister, plastic canister. And I'd opened the cabinet door and just laid the, like, say this is the pregnancy stick. I just laid it right on top of the coffee canister. And it was just sitting there like that, you know, in the cabinet. So whenever he opens the cabinet to get the coffee, he's got to pick this up first because he's going to see, well, like, what is that, you know? And that was how I was going to tell him that we were expecting. And he gets up. I remember his alarm going off, and he's one of those that'll hit the alarm like 25 times in the morning. And I'm like, oh my God, will you just get up? Like, I wasn't in the bed. I was in my living room, like laying on the couch watching TV, waiting on him to get up. And finally he gets up, goes through the hallway, and then I like follow him into the kitchen. And he's like, what are you doing up? I'm like, oh no, I just couldn't sleep, blah, 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 blah. And I sit down at the kitchen table while I'm waiting on him to open the cabinet. And he opens the cabinet, and I'm sitting there, nervous wreck. And he opens the cabinet up, and he goes to reach for the can of coffee up in the cabinet, you know, and he sees that thing sticking off the edge, and he picks it up and looks at it, and he's like, looking at it in like all different directions. And he turns around and looks at me, and he says, is this a thermometer? Why is the thermometer laying on the coffee? And I looked at him with a really stupid look on my face. I know, because I'm like, what the heck? And I said, that ain't a thermometer, stupid. And he looked at it again. And then he looked at me. And then he looked at it again. And then he looked at me. And I had this, like, look on my face, you know? And he's like, no way. And I was like, way. And he's like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I'm like, nope. So, of course, we hugged and had the whole, like, discussion of, oh my God, we're parents, but yet we're old enough to be its grandparents, and what are we doing, and blah, 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 and are we stupid, and this kid's going to be we're going to be millions of years old when this kid, like, graduates high school, and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? At the end of the day, neither one of us cared. We were pregnant, you know? And so, yes, we had her very, very late in life. But we wanted her. And we had tried to have her. And kept failing, you know. And I'm going to just be honest right here when I say this. No matter what you believe in, this is my channel, and I'm going to say what I believe in. And I believe in God. And I believe in His timing. And I believe that things happen in His timing. And I was always taught that God is an on-time God. He does things on His own time. And on time, if that makes sense. So, needless to say, I believe in my heart that He gave her to us when He intended to, and not when we, you know, not on our own timeline. So, basically, yeah, that's how that happened. Now, the story, oh my God, it was so funny. I remember I had to tell my family. So both of my parents have passed away. That's the one bad thing about having kids very late in life, is there's a very good possibility that either the baby's grandparents will be, you know, older or not here anymore, or, you know, I mean, my mom was older when she had me. She was 37 or 38, I think. Oh, and by the way, I had turned 41 in October of 2018 and had her in March of 2019. So I was actually 41 years old when I gave birth to her. So, but anyway, but what I was saying is that sometimes that's one of the bad things that you kind of have to battle when you have kids late in life, is older grandparents or possibly no grandparents. And Jolie actually has no grandparents. Both Dale's mom and dad and both my mom and dad have already passed away. However, we have a lot of family that fill the shoes as best they can, if you know what I mean. So, my sister Mickey and her husband, they're a lot like grandparents to my kids. They just kind of like stepped in and took that role. And, you know, there's a lot of other family that we have that is the same way. So we're very blessed in that aspect. Okay, now, telling the family, how did that go? The first person we told besides, well, the first person that knew was my husband, obviously. Then I'm pretty sure, told my sister, Mickey, but I had called her because I was like, you're going to have to come over here. I got something to give you. And she's like, okay, I'll be there in a few minutes, because they literally live right around the corner. So her and her husband came over. I told her I had a surprise for her, something that I wanted to give her or something. So I had some of those like Bud Light Strawberritas in the refrigerator. Well, I'm pregnant. I can't drink them now, you know. And she likes them. So I was like, well, I'll just like use that as an excuse to get her over here, to give them to her, you know. And so she comes in the door, and I'm like all like giddy and like trying to like contain myself, because I had like a little trick that I wanted to play on her. And she's like, what's up? And I'm like, nothing. I said, I just wanted to give you these. And I opened up the refrigerator and handed them to her. And she's like, why are you giving me these? And she said, do you not want them? And I'm like, I can't drink them anymore. And she said, why? And I said, well, Dale told me I couldn't drink anymore, that he's had it with me. He don't want me drinking anymore. And she's like, you're kidding me. I'm like, no, he's mad. He, you know, got mad the last time I drank them, and he just said no, he don't want me to have them anymore. She's like, okay, whatever, but that's kind of weird, because she knows Dale's not like that, you know. And she knew I was being kind of weird anyway. And she's like, are you lying? Are you putting me on? And then all of a sudden Dale comes, because Dale was hiding. And at about that time, my brother-in-law walks through, you know, the house, and Mickey's husband. And Dale comes out of the bathroom with a pillow under his shirt. Like, he's pregnant, you know. And they're both their eyes are like, oh, because Dale's pointing to me, but he's got the pillow under his, shirt, like he's all pregnant or whatever. And Mickey said, "You're pregnant." And I'm like, "Yes." And so, or they were tickled. And then we told we waited until about 12 weeks, which was almost impossible. That was so hard to keep quiet. Like, I wanted to shout it from the rooftops, And plus, people were like, "Why are you being so weird? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why won't you come over here and drink with me?" Or whatever, And, so it's just so funny. But we waited, and in the meantime, before we, while we were waiting, I had contacted my OB, my doctor that delivered Eli. I knew that I wanted to go right back to him because I love him. He's just an awesome obstetrician, and he was just so, so sweet. I just love him. And made the appointment, and whenever I went in, it'd been so long since I've seen him, but of course he knew who I was. As soon as he came through the door, he's like, "How are you? What are we doing here?" And I'm like, "Well," and he looks at the chart and he's like, "Ooh." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "So was this on purpose?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay." So we talk, and everything. And he's like, "Okay, so I just have to tell you that because of your age, you're considered a geriatric patient." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute. What? I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm not in a nursing home. I have my own teeth. I can still walk without a walk. Like, what? What are you saying geriatric for?" And he's like, "Yeah." He said, "That's just a term that they use for women that are pregnant over the age of like 37 or 38 or something." I'm like, "Whatever." I'm like, "Call me whatever you want to, but just whatever." And, what is this doing there? Is that supposed to be there? I think so. But anyway, he checks everything out, and have my first little official visit, get my first like official, "Yes, you are pregnant," pee in a cup test and all that. And I don't even remember now what all they do, but he was explaining to me the dangers or the problems that can occur with being pregnant at my age. And I'm like, "Yeah, yada, 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 yada." And we talked about anxiety and depression, because I do have. And at the time that I went in, I was not being treated medically. I had had medication for it before, but had stopped using it like a few years before that. And so we had talked about that and different things. And just kind of caught up. And then whenever the whole, 12 weeks came along, I ended up, making the announcement to friends and family first, obviously. And then on Facebook, it was Facebook official. And most of my friends and family were very supportive and like excited for us. And then of course there was some of the few that were like, "What in the world are you thinking? Was this an accident? Blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "No." "No, it wasn't an accident. We intended it to happen." And so, but yeah, most everybody was super supportive and not like weirded out about it at all. like I thought people would be. But then, you know, I mean, I have a few people that I went to school with that even older than me that had babies recently, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think now women are having babies a lot later in life than they used to. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, yeah, there's pros and cons to it, I guess, whatever. But, you know, I'm just, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking physically, until I go through menopause or my machinery is yanked out, so to speak, I'm able to be pregnant and bear children, right? I mean, that's how that works. So that's kind of what happened. So anyway, long story short, the pregnancy was decent. Lots of heartburn, obviously. Lots of I will say that the anxiety and depression kicked in super quick and lasted the entire pregnancy. I didn't take any medication during the pregnancy. Just because, not that I'm against it. For me, I just wasn't comfortable with doing it because we have already had a child with autism, and I just didn't want to take any what I felt like would be unnecessary chances with anything, you know. So, ended up doing the same as I did the first time I was pregnant, had gestational diabetes. So I had to start watching what I ate. It wasn't bad enough that I had to take insulin, but it was enough that I had to change my diet. Ended up losing weight because of the diet, but because I was already overweight, the doctor was fine with that amount of weight loss because the baby was still growing. Blah, blah, blah. Let me grab another drink. So, anyway, Poppy's over here snoring. That was her snoring. Sounded like a fart. It was not me farting, promise. But anyway, I had the gestational diabetes, and then, I don't know, my blood pressure was really good the whole time, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. So, I had like 2.5, 3 months left to go. Maybe it was only like a couple of months left to go, and went for, you know, one of my checkups. And let me just tell you though, every time I went to the doctor, he kept saying the word geriatric. And finally, one day, I'm like, if you call me a geriatric patient one more time, I'm going to take those forceps over there and squeeze your head off. And he laughed, you know, but anyway. He, did have me do, like, we did opt for, there was one test, can't remember what it's called, where they test for a lot of different, like, things that could, you know, potentially be wrong with the baby. It looks for different markers and different, you know, abnormalities or whatever. And so we did have that test done. He didn't push me to do it, you know, but he did offer it and gave us time to think about it before we made a decision. And, you know, me and Dale both decided, you know, not that we would have done anything differently if something had have happened or been wrong or whatever, but I think we just wanted to know, because not knowing would have killed us. And so we thought that it would be better for us so that we could be prepared in case something was wrong. You know, and we didn't want to be surprised with something when she was born. So we did the test. Took a while for it to come back. When it came back, they called. Everything was fine. I was so excited and happy and elated. And they were also able to tell me like 6 weeks earlier than normal whether it was a boy or a girl. Instead of like through the ultrasound, they could tell through the blood work that I had done. And wanted to know if we wanted to know if it was a boy or girl. And I was like, yeah. And so we found out that it was a girl. And oh my God, I was so excited because I wanted a little girl. I would have been fine with a boy, even though we had Eli. But I really wanted a little girl. And it was a girl. And so then, you know, I didn't have like a gender reveal party or nothing like that. But my awesome cousin that I talk about all the time, she had us a really incredible baby shower. She like went way above and beyond and had an incredible baby shower for us. But whenever I went to one of my appointments, though, my blood pressure, which had been normal all this time, had went up. It was like high. And she's like, let me just let you stay here for a couple of minutes and then we'll try it again. And I was like, okay. And we waited a few minutes and tried it again. And she's like, it's still pretty high. She said, let's, you know, go ahead and take you on back and let's see what the doctor has to say. I was like, okay. So, he had them do what is that called? It's like a stress test on the baby or something like that. I can't remember. But they basically wanted to see like what her heart rate was when she moved around. And I had to do that every so often, like every little bit I'd have to go do that. And they just basically just hook up one of those little belt things to my belly with the little like Doppler thing on it, and they would read the chart on it, you know, what the heart rate went to whenever she would move. And every time I'd go in there, she would never be moving. Like, she would just lay there, and I would like shake my belly, and I would do this and do that, and she's like, nope, I ain't moving. And then they'd like come in there and give me like a Coke or something with sugar in it to like try to make her, you know, wake up a little bit. And but anyway, my blood pressure would do that every time after that one visit. And he ended up putting me on bed rest. And he's like, we're just going to keep an eye on you. And I want you to stay on bed rest. He made me go to the hospital a couple of different times to like have me like be observed, like, and do like non-stop blood pressure checks like every 15 minutes for a couple of hours. And it never failed. My blood pressure would be sky high, but then as soon as I got over there, laid down, it would go to normal. Like, so I don't know why it would be so high one minute and then go to normal when I'm like literally doing nothing. So he did have me on bed rest for the last couple of months. He honestly did not even want me going to my baby shower. He's like, you need to tell them that you can't get up and that they need to bring the baby shower to you, to your house. And I'm like, okay, first of all, if you want my blood pressure to stay down, then the last thing you need to do is tell them to come to my house, because I've been on bed rest. My house ain't clean. My dishes ain't clean. My laundry ain't done. Blah, 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 blah. And that would make my heart rate and my blood pressure go up, is to have people come to my house. Not happening. And he's like, okay, okay, okay. He said, but you go, open your presents, eat a piece of cake, come back home, lay back down. And I'm like, okay, deal. So that's what we did. And I wasn't actually put on blood pressure medicine until, well, he did prescribe me some, but he told me that as long as it was staying down when I was staying down, like if my blood pressure was good, as long as I was down, then I didn't need to take it yet. But if it was staying up even when I was laying down, I would have to start taking it. I ended up having to start taking it, though, after I had her, because even after I had her, my blood pressure was still through the roof. And I had a scheduled C-section, and, well, I can't remember. I think we went in like at 9 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. This may end up having to be like a two-parter, because it's already a little bit long, I think. Might be going over a little bit too long. So I might have to resume the rest of this next WIP and Chat, as far as like her birth story goes. But we did have her a little bit early. He wanted to, basically, I had went in for another checkup, and she had like stopped growing. And he's like, okay, I don't like this. He said, I want you to go see a maternal fetal medicine specialist. So made that appointment, went to that appointment, and they did a ton of like ultrasound stuff and all kinds of testing. But anyway, they wanted to make sure that she was getting enough blood flow and that all that kind of stuff, you know, and then take like more in-depth measurements of all these different bones and check out, you know, all of her organs. And the doctor's basically like, he's like the maternal fetal medicine doctor, specialist person. He's like, checks everything out, you know, and he reads all of the reports, and he's like, well, he said, she's got plenty of blood flow. That's good. There's nothing, you know, everything looks normal. He said, she's just very small. And he said, but, you know, he said, some women just have tiny babies. And Eli was small as well. Very small. And, he's like, you're what, 5 foot? I'm like, yeah, I'm 5'1". And he said, then you just gonna have small babies. So he said, that's just all there is to it. And I was like, okay, so as long as everything's fine. But my OB had sent me over there to make sure that I didn't need to like deliver now in case there was like a lack of blood flow or whatever. So yeah. But we did schedule her C-section, for me to have a C-section, because when I had Eli, I was never able to dilate past like a 6 centimeter. And so I ended up having to have a C-section with him. And my doctor told me, he said, well, he said, if you have kids in the future, he said, I highly recommend that you have a C-section as well, because the way that your uterus is shaped, it's not shaped in a way that is beneficial or helpful with dilating. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It's supposed to be shaped like a teardrop, I guess. And mine is shaped like an oval or oblong or something. I don't have a clue, but... And it's also sits very, 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 very high up. But we had her on March 21st of 2019. And she is rotten. She keeps us on our toes. We always say, and my family always says, because of our age, that she's going to keep us young. And oh, it's so funny. But yeah, she's something else. And we are blessed to have her, and as our little addition to our little family. So that's pretty much how that happened. There was no accident. It wasn't an oops. Oops, we did it again. When we were old geriatric people, blah, 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 blah. He'd make me so mad every time he'd say the word geriatric. I'm like, if you say that one more time. I asked him one time, I'm like, how old was your oldest patient that had a baby? And he said 53 years old. He delivered a woman that had a baby at 53 years old. And I'm like, well, good, then I don't feel so bad. And he's like, no, he said, honestly, women having babies in their 40s is a lot more common than you would think. He said, and basically the reason why is because now you have a lot of women who, you know, are going into like a second marriage later in life, or they have like, a lot of women who have like really put their life into their occupation and work, and then decide that they actually do want babies, and they do it like later after they've already like been successful in their jobs or whatever, you know. So, but yeah, I don't feel so horrible about it. Oh, I've never really even had anybody say, oh my gosh, is she your granddaughter? Or anything like that, you know. But anyway, she's just the cutest little thing ever. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up now. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them as long as they're positive. Please don't leave any negative Nelly comments on this post, because yeah, you can leave them on normal diamond painting post, but not on this post, because I would likely go mama bear crazy on people. So anyway, next week I will share more about the actual birth story, about when I go in to have her and all that kind of stuff. But I promise it's not going to be too TMI if you're interested in hearing. Yeah, about a woman going in to have a baby after 40. So anyway, you guys, I appreciate you hanging out, staying this long, if you have stayed this long, listening and being supportive and non-judgmental, please. And it's kind of difficult to share this kind of thing with people that you don't know, because it kind of opens you up to negativity and negative comments and opinions of others. And, you know, the bottom line is she's ours and we're hers, and that's all that matters. So If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up before you head out the door. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, ding, 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 to get notified the next time I upload another video. And I will see you next week. Bye, guys.